round, Omnitel versus High Tide. We've got a fight between unfair Force of Will combo decks. Adam Johnson on the left, Michael Tabler on the right. Omnitel versus High Tide. I am going to root for Candelabra of Taunos. Michael Tabler with High Tide.
Could you? All right, well, we have Michael's list right here. It looks like a reasonably standard High Tide list. Main deck, 1 Meditate, 1 Pack Negation, 3 Turnabouts. I know some people have advocated cutting down on the Turnabouts a little bit. Honestly, I couldn't speak to the efficacy of that choice, so I won't.
Looking at Michael Tabler's sideboard, he has a clear fake sideboard. All of his cards are potential Cunning Wish targets, so the rule of thumb with a Cunning Wish sideboard that's all cards like this, you only side in cards you can't imagine yourself Cunning Wishing for, but you still would want in your deck. And looking at Brian's deck, I don't think any card fits that description. I'm willing to bet that he has stayed exactly where he was at the main deck 60 without any changes.
Yeah, that seems probable.
His opponent, Adam Johnson, actually has a sideboard that's real. And a card I expect to see coming in, Defense Grid, is one of the big ones. And the other one is maybe the best sideboard card of all time, Pyroblast.
Pyroblast, good old-fashioned old-school hoser. Not going to be shocked to see it against Michael's mono blue deck. I imagine he'll bring in all 3 copies.
This, to me, says Adam Johnson might have a big edge in this Game 3.
He's certainly the more explosive of these combo decks. High Tide is a really pretty consistent deck, I want to say, but its combo turn is usually turn 4, I believe. That's when it plans to go off. And while it does turn 4 against token resistance the vast majority of the time, it's not going to be generally killing you on turn 2 or 3, and the Omnitel deck can definitely realistically threaten those kinds of plays.
Both players are probably going to spend the first few turns kind of massaging their decks. Either of these decks could win rapidly, but the problem is they are Force of Will fighting against each other. So the fast kill, perhaps not the best kill in this matchup. If you go for it and you fail, the opponent could just come back and get you.
One of the interesting things is that Michael opened on Island Go, which for the High Tide deck, which has plenty of cantrips, is a smidge unusual. If I'm Adam, I generally assume when I see these kinds of starts that my opponent kept a hand with some disruption at the cost of not having access to cantrips. It's unlikely he would keep a combo hand, because comboing me on turn 4 is not that good if I'm playing Omnitel, but counterspelling me 2 or 3 times, that's pretty effective. And indeed, Michael, it appears, drew a Ponder and kept his top 3 in place. And if we look at his hand, I think we can see a little truth there. We've got Pact Negation, Force of Will, a Flusterstorm. He's rolled up.
Now, unfortunately, even though Evan Irwin is working on 3D broadcasting for us, if you crane your neck to see some of these cards, it's not going to work. But rest assured, Evan is on it, and one day we will have that 3D broadcasting for you, so you don't have to crane your neck to see these cards. For now, it's not going to help you out.
Adam's hand, on the other hand, appears to be cantrip heavy. Starting with Ponder and then Brainstorm. He's going to go ahead and crack to fix up the top of his deck.
Adam trying to figure out exactly what he wants to get here.
Yeah, Volcanic Island seemed like a reasonably clear choice. Might have been double checking his hand to see if he had some other card to get.
Adam Johnson not only has the Force of Wills, he's got the Thoughtseize, Inquisition of Kozilek.
Yep.
This is a really, really strong set of cards to have in what is effectively not a mirror, obviously. These are different archetypes, but very, very similar plans. Combo off with Force of Wills.
Continues to go with Preordain after... Oh, that was an end-step Brainstorm that we saw. Okay, I understand. Yeah, he's preordaining now on turn 3. Not sure if he has... I assume he has a 3rd land, as he just bottomed one with Preordain.
If you are following the conversation with hashtag SCGCIN, you would know that Joe Bernal is now 7-1.
Kudos to Joe. He does have a number of top 16 finishes under his belt, so let's hope he manages to avoid that particular dagger this time around.
Michael Tabler, third land. Look at all of those blue cards. Ponder comes out, 3 Moon Ponder. Checks the top. Turnabout.
Lands.
Now, Turnabout, one of the weapons Michael Tabler has here. And how that is useful in essence is it makes his Flusterstorms much more effective when it comes to a counterspell war. He can begin, or he can, at the end of his opponent's turn, turn about all of their lands, or even during their upkeep if he wants to try to shut them off from the attempt at a Inquisition, Thoughtseize, that kind of thing. And if they don't draw a land, then continue onwards. And then on his own turn, go for it. Most of Adam Johnson's counterspells are free, but Flusterstorm does help out there because they need to have that mana they have available. So Flusterstorm already pretty good in a combo fight, to be fair.
Yeah, in this matchup, it's going to be effectively Spell Piercer better the vast majority of the time.
It does make his Spell Pierces perfectly excellent there. Adam Johnson, 4th mana.
Certainly been developing his mana base on par. Burning
Wish.
Oh, let's take a peek.
Boy.
I imagine our targets are Show and Tell or Overmaster. Those are the 2 most likely ones at this spot.
Overmaster, red, sorcery. The next instant or sorcery spell you play this turn can't be countered, and then you can draw a card. Should he go get that? What was fetched with the Burning Wish?
He did it really quickly, actually. I'm not sure.
If we get an opportunity with having our spotter tell us, we'll let you know, but it was too fast. I don't know what he grabbed to his hand.
I believe Show and Tell, yeah.
Show and Tell.
I was looking at his hand, I saw mostly blue, so I assumed it had to have been the Show and Tell. And he just drew a Burning Wish, so if he wants an Overmaster, he can go get that now. He's going to just go for it.
Yeah, why not?
We're done messing around.
I know I spent a long playtest session with Omnitel versus High Tide. It was Adam Jansen, a junior Pro Tour top 8er from back in the day. And just recently playing this out, and Omnitel had the huge edge game 1 when we were playing this out. And it was largely because you could cast Show and Tell, and High Tide would just kind of say, okay.
Yeah, Michael's going to really need to counterspell here. And it's a fight it's going to be important to win.
Spell Pierce. Force of Will on the Spell Pierce.
Pitching Days. I think we maybe went a little too early. I think Burning Wishing for Overmaster to go off next turn might have been a better line for us.
And Michael Tabler takes that Show and Tell out of the graveyard. He's like, no. That has not resolved yet. Flusterstorm in hand, I believe. Pact of Negation, Force of Will.
Looks like the Flusterstorm.
Fluster. He does the count on the storms and is like, this.
All of them at Show and Tell.
Adam Johnson. Flusterstorm, an amazing card in a counter war.
Yeah, it's an especially effective countermeasure when your opponent has access to things like Pyroblast. Pyroblast is not going to work. It's one of the reasons I think Overmaster is such a powerful weapon in the matchup in general. Flusterstorm is very easily beaten by Overmaster. At a minimum, they're forced to trade a counterspell with the card in the first place, and that allows you to preserve your Show and Tell, try and go off on the next turn.
Adam Johnson could be in real trouble here. Force of Will earlier to try to fight for that Show and Tell means that he's down an extra card, but Michael Tabler just says go.
Yeah, as I summarized earlier, Michael has kept a hand with a lot of counterspells, but very little actual action. Looks like he has a Blue Sun Zenith, so we might be seeing him Sphinx's Revelation style.
Right.
Very in short order, which is pretty awkward, actually.
You mean awesome?
It's a little of both, I think.
And Adam Johnson on the left here with Omnitel, Michael Tabler on the right. If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Glenn Jones. For the legacy portion of the Star City Games Open Series, it's SCG Live here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Adam Johnson contemplating his options.
Worth noting is that that Spell Pierce is from Michael's sideboard, so he brought it in. He decided he was not going to Cunning Wish for Spell Pierce in this game, and would be very happy to naturally draw it.
That is absolutely fair. And, I mean, if you think about it, a 4-mana Spell Pierce is a lot of mana.
Yeah.
So just having a Spell Pierce naturally, much better.
Certainly worked out in that interaction.
And if he wants to tutor for something, he can still tutor for a Flusterstorm in the sideboard if he chooses.
Yep.
We did see a Pact of Negation in his hand. He has 1 Pact main, 1 Pact in the sideboard.
I imagine he kept that split in
I think
place.
that's probably accurate.
Adam, it appears, has moved an Inquisition of Kozilek to his sideboard. I think I just saw him look at it for Burning Wish. It's some savvy sideboarding. I'm interested.
Now, if Michael knows this matchup really well, I would be not too particularly surprised if one of his 2 Wipeaways was brought into his main deck as a card he could just kind of have in hand, or even a Merchant Scroll for against a Gristlebrand. Because you can do this, Merchant Scroll, once you've selected your card, say Wipeaway, then immediately get the Gristlebrand before they even get the opportunity to use it. But that's all presuming the Gristlebrand hasn't destroyed you already.
Yeah, it seems like Adam will generally just be drawing 7 as soon as it gets into play. He's not actually threatened by damage in any way, so there's no incentive to delay. However, we have certainly seen people make stranger plays.
Even stopping someone at that first 7 instead of like letting them have the extra 7 can be pretty significant.
Sure.
Most people only do the 7 to begin with.
Yep. Reasonable trick to know in that situation is you can declare that you're just activating twice without passing priority to your opponent. In Moto, you can accomplish this by holding down the control key.
Yes. I sometimes have forgotten that it's the control key and push the alt key, and then end up making loud noises.
Yep.
That is time. Time of the round. Active player picks your turn, and they are carved 5 additional turns. If you have a magic extension, please raise your hand so a judge can be by and help.
For those of you who wonder what High Tide usually wins with, this is Blue Sun Zenith, the X spell, or alternately a Cunning Wish for Brain Freeze to storm out the opponent.
We're seeing a High Tide in response to Inquisition of Kozilek here. I imagine that means we're going to be Blue Sun Zenithing. Except that we got Force of Will. So
another Force of Will toss days. Does Michael have anything useful in here to do a fight over this with?
I think he could Pact of Negation reasonably here, or Force, and then still fire off his Blue Sun Zenith for, a fair number of cards. 5. That's pretty good. I think I like the Pact, yeah.
Yeah, Pact is just fine. Pact your Force of Will. How do you feel about that?
And I'm reading, so I get a free turn. That's not so bad. Michael quickly placing the die. Look he just assumes that Pact of Negation is going to resolve. I mean, he's probably right.
Okay, here we go. The continuation of this moment. Turnabouts himself.
Oh, wow. I didn't see that he had a turnabout, so that means he's going to get even more cards.
A lot of mana.
He's down to, that means he has access to 14 mana, so he can draw 11 cards.
Remember, this is all on Adam Johnson's turn here.
I imagine Michael's going to draw 1 less card than that, just draw 10, just in case Adam has a daze, although I can't tell if he has a hand. Yeah, he does have 1 card left in hand, so even though it would be the last daze in the deck, there's really no reason to risk getting dazed here.
Michael Tabler still responding to this Inquisition of Kozilek. A High Tide is on... looks like he's going all in.
He's going to 14 mana. I imagine there's no real reason to not do that. But I think if I were him, I would only use 13 of it. That's really cautious of me, but, it's easy to be... to take no prisoners and go all in when they don't have it, and then when they do, you feel silly.
Blue Sun Zenith. Targeting me, says Michael Tabler. And it works.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It shuffles the Blue Sun Zenith back in. 6 seems like a small
6.
number.
Yeah, I'm curious.
High Tide, Turnabout, Float 4, 14 mana in pool.
So he used 9. He's still got 5 left. Perhaps he's planning to hardcast the Force of Will in his hand?
That could be.
and protect it from Inquisition of Kozilek. That's reasonable.
I mean, 6 cards is a lot of cards.
Yeah, I would probably just draw 10. We're not going to have a turn next turn anyway because of the pack negation, so we're going to be basically just going straight to our cleanup step, almost certainly. Unless we open on, like, Upkeep High Tide, pay for Pact, maybe do something.
And he is like, well, I
Whatever.
guess your Inquisition hits me. Force of Will, Brainstorm, Time Spiral, Candelabra, and Flusterstorm.
Yep. Interesting choices. I think I take Brainstorm.
I completely agree.
There's too much counter spells. Like, you're not going to actually be getting through those with a combo anytime soon, so you might as well just let him sit. Especially since you have access to things like Overmaster to start the fight in different spots.
And Candelabra goes away. Michael Tabler doing all of this during Adam Johnson's main phase. Brainstorm with that mana floating. He's got 4 mana left.
Brainstorm hit Hot Fire. It hit another Brainstorm and a Merchant Scroll. That's pretty good.
Sick.
He's going to probably just throw the Merchant Scroll back, put the land on top as well, untap, pay for Pact, play a land, and pass.
And he remembers to pay for Pact.
Yep.
I have failed to do that myself.
I had a friend, actually, Chris Fennell, who went to a GP, and actually his only losses were to his own Summoner's Packs. He did not lose a game where he remembered.
I did the same thing and won a PTQ. It was failing to pay for a Slaughter Pact and failing to pay for a Pact of Negation.
Ouch.
I was pretty sick that day.
Chris forgot a little more frequently, I think. He did make, I believe, top 16 of the GP or something like that, but that's got to be rough when you imagine what could have been.
Michael Tabler here in really commanding position, but Adam Johnson not done. He casts a Burning Wish. Now, Adam does know that there is Force of Will, Time Spiral, Island, Flusterstorm, Brainstorm in Michael Tabler's hand.
He just Force of Will, or Burning Wished for Jataxian Probe, I believe. That's a curious choice.
Here's my hand again. You saw it for the most part. Force of Will, Time Spiral, Brainstorm, Time Spiral, Flusterstorm.
I think Adam might feel a little adrift in this game, just trying to get something going, so he goes for a cantrip here. Just kind of cycling his Burning Wish. I think that's an impatient burn of the spell, though.
Well, we did see a little bit of impatience in the fight for Show and Tell before.
Yeah.
And I think Adam might be used to being able to play so quickly with this deck that he's not used to being against another deck that does something similar. Brainstorm main phase.
As you can see, the clock is ticking down, so we might be seeing one of High Tide's time-honored long extra turns coming up soon.
And back goes a Time Spiral. And so much gas.
Yep.
He puts back a Force of Will. Why not? Why not?
We're good here.
Don't need it.
I think I see a pair of High Tides there. Am I wrong?
It is.
Pair of High Tides, a Merchant Scroll, a Time Spiral, a Force of Will. That is, as they say, enough.
The tide is high. Pyroblast.
Bzz. I'm inclined to Flusterstorm. I'm not sure how awesome it is.
Flusterstorm that Pyroblast all to hell.
I think, I don't know. Do we still have one Force? I think we have one left over. I might have just forced pitching.
Another High Tide. The Tide now at 3 mana per island.
Yeah, so we can Merchant Scroll for High Tide and then Time Spiral?
Will Tyler King please report to the head judge at the judge's stage? Will Tyler
That line seems best. Keep in mind that we do have an additional mana floating from the island we just tapped, so
Merchant Scroll.
we have now 2 blue mana in our pool. Imagine we're just grabbing a High Tide. Unless we don't have a High Tide. We have discarded 3 already. Okay, we have the 4th.
There it is.
It's not uncommon to see a High Tide move to the sideboard for games 2 and 3, fearing surgical extraction from an opponent. But Michael not fearing that today.
Shuffle, shuffle, shuffle after all the searching. Seems a little bit pointless, actually, given what he's going to do next.
Yep.
Oh.
So now these islands all tap for 4, so that puts us to 4 floating as we time spiral.
That is the 7th spell of the turn. Pardon me, I missed the Merchant Scroll. The 8th spell of the turn. Now, Time Spiral, for those of you who don't know, blue, blue, 4, sorcery, untap 6 lands when you cast it, and both players draw 7 cards, shuffling in everything from the graveyard, their hand, and it all comes back fresh for you. You can read it right there. Remove Time Spiral from the game. Each player shuffles his or her graveyard and hand into their library, draw 7 cards, untap 6 lands. Now, that does not mean you have to untap your lands. If you want to, you can be a pal and untap your opponent's lands.
That's true. I've been known to taunt the occasional opponent on Moto by untapping their lands with a variety of wonderful spells.
One of my favorite moments in Magic history, there was a 4-slot Pro Tour qualifier in Milwaukee, and famous Chicago Magic player Turbo Bob Watson was playing Memory Jar. His opponent, Jacob Janoska, had been lobotomied with no win conditions left, and he was just patiently playing it out. Bob calls a judge, "My opponent's stalling me out," and Jacob Janoska Time Spiral taps and untaps Bob's City of Brass again and again for the win.
Oh, wow.
Using Time Spiral, Turnabout, and Frantic Search, he kills Bob with his own City of Brass. So
Wow,
you can do it.
That's all the angles, as they say.
I think that's actually more spectacular than Patrick Chapin's Low Tide, where he went off without having High Tide.
That is difficult.
7 cards. Adam Johnson, a fresh chance to get a whole bunch of sideboard action here. Or I should say Force of Wills, really, since his sideboard cards require mana. That's Pyroblast, and he does not have the red mana available. He does, however, have the Tide currently at 4, so his his Underground Sea does tap for 4 blue mana.
Yep, very much worth noting. One of the more amusing interactions I considered was when he cast that Inquisition of Kozilek and Michael high-tide in response. It would have been the best if it were possible for Adam to post-resolution just cast Omniscience.
Nice.
He did not have that kind of untapped lands.
Meditate, draw 4, says Michael Tabler with his 9th spell. He will, however, have to give up his next turn.
Well, that's a drag. I don't imagine he's going to have one, though.
Michael Tabler now with 10 cards in hand. Casts a High Tide after that, it looks like. Candelabra. Tide at 5 mana per land. Ponder. At this point, Michael Tabler has so much mana available to him, it is practically not worthwhile to keep track of it. Yeah. But good High Tide players still do.
Yeah, you got to keep track of your game state. Got to make sure that your opponent knows what's going on and that you know what's going on if anyone ever asks. He's playing pretty quickly here, just trying to get it together. Likely aware that time is approaching, but one of the luxuries of High Tide is that most of its game-winning actions all take place within a single turn. So it's not usually necessary to worry about actually getting forced into an ID.
We see Intuition. One of my favorite cards in High Tide. All of my High Tide lists make sure to run 1 Intuition. A lot of people don't run it at all.
One of my favorite cards. I enjoy playing with it in a variety of formats, Commander and Cube included. Building your decks to maximize an Intuition or even just make excellent use of it. An enjoyable pastime.
It looks like he's going Intuition for Merchant Scroll, Merchant Scroll, Merchant Scroll, meaning that Adam Johnson would have to give him one of the Merchant Scrolls, and then he would use it to tutor up whichever blue instant that he chooses.
Now, I can assume it's not a blue instant that he runs 3 of, because otherwise, why wouldn't he have just gotten that?
And Adam Johnson says, sure, have a merchant scroll. And Michael Tabler's like, hey, I'm just going to get this Blue Sun Zenith, okay?
Yeah. 1 sec, bro. Yeah, I hope he Blue Suns anything for a pile of cards. Likely using the Candelabra to make even more manas. We'll be seeing a double-digit Blue Sun Zenith this turn. I am not sure if he's actually to the point where he can fire it off for the kill. I don't think so.
Have faith.
I mean, this current iteration. I think he's going to have to draw the cards first.
I think with the Candelabra, he has enough. Right now, he can make 20 mana plus the Candelabra mana.
Well, he's going to be paying 7, so we'll be going down to 13, and then going back up to like 35. So he can do. It's close, but I don't think he can actually get it.
And we are told, I'm not sure where our director gets his mana counts on, but I'm going to ignore that one.
We have islands tapping for 5 blue right now. So that would be 13 plus 35 rather than our director's predicted 65. It's a little different number.
Brainstorm here. Turnabout.
Turnabout will do it. All right. That's much closer to the 78 our director thought it was, and I imagine we'll see we'll see Michael closing this up in short order.
There are moments when I'm in this state of the game where I know how to finish the game, but I'll just show my hand to my opponent and say, give.
One of those, eh? One of those.
You know, it saves us all time.
I don't mind, like, quickly explaining. I've been known to do that before. I'm going to do this and then this and then this. Is that okay? And then they say, play it out. I'm like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, I've got no problem playing it out. But in a long tournament, getting that rest between rounds can matter quite a bit.
Sure.
And Michael counting up his mana.
It's a big
I think
number.
he's got a large number of mana. Untaps all of his lands with the Candelabra of Thanos.
Because he just high-tied it again, they now should all be tapping for 6. Which means, combined with that turnabout, it's a very easy kill. Won't even need to remove cards to those Force of Wills, he can just cast them.
Tap, 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 tap. Turnabout. My lands.
Target me, my lands.
Tap, 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 tap. Leaving 18 mana untapped there.
Yep.
Stroke in the form of Blue Sun Zenith to finish you off. Adam Johnson here. His last huzzah extends the hand.
All right, well, Michael Tabler locks that game up in a potential position for a top 8 performance.
That's right.
Joy.
Adam Johnson gives the camera a look. Yeah, I know I didn't win that one.
Yep.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Glenn Jones. Michael Tabler here, the third match of this round 8 that we've put forth for you guys.